I like the idea though, where it's like the magic micro. There's probably adults out there that are just like, I see where you're going with that one. It's like,
Yeah, that's,
oh,
and
we
you know,
get
magic
that.
we get that
micro,
reaction,
and
and that was part of it,
just
actually.
like it'd be like in the future, it's like you get Channing Tatum to be on. They'd be like, I knew it from episode 1. That's what they were going for. It's just to like, yeah,
The
like
magic micro comes to life.
ask you first to really start off is it's almost been a year since you've kind of done this, like this whole chef like YouTube channel experience. Tell me like how it came to be, and was it something like when you were smaller you were kind of like, you know what, like I'd like to do that, like was there an inspiration behind it, or is it one day you're like, man, like YouTube's like getting people famous, I'd like to try to get into that?
Yeah, so actually it started with our son. So I'm a teacher, Daniel's a musician. And with our son, we realized that we could teach him so much through cooking and song. So when I brought him to the kitchen with me and, we're making desserts together, we're making food together, I'm realizing I'm teaching him math, I'm teaching him shapes and colors and all these amazing things. And then Daniel loves to create music. And together we thought, wait a second, if we can do this for our kid, maybe we can do this for other kids as well. And so we were at an anniversary dinner, sitting together talking, and we had this idea for a while. And we thought, okay, you know what? Let's do it. What's the worst that can happen? So no one watches it. At least our son will be entertained. And that's pretty much how the idea came to be. This idea of cooking with kids and having them learn in the kitchen. There's just nothing quite like it. And we thought, maybe this is our opportunity.
Yeah, and I just, to continue on that, I think we both realized when we were talking at dinner when we went out for our anniversary that this would be great for us as like a fun thing to do as a couple, because we love music and we love cooking. So it just brought all of our passions together into something and being creative. And it's been, just about a year, and it's been a lot of fun.
Definitely.
So I guess like a kind of like side quest to this, or like a side question would be like, I know from this experience of trying to start a podcast, like there's a lot of, I guess, brainstorming. There's a lot of like, because at one point I'm sure you could go on, like when YouTube first started, there's videos of like a guy who flips out at a keyboard while he's playing a video game, and that's still famous. Or there's like old clips that are really blurry, and you're like, that's kind of what I remember YouTube being. But now it's like, it's no longer like, just press record and we're just gonna go.
It's a production.
Like, it's and that's what I found to try to start this. It was like almost a solid year where you're just kind of sitting there and you're like, I don't want to just do one episode and then just become phased out. I don't want to do like 3 or 4, and then it's like, because you kind of got to build it. Like you got to be ready, like mentally up here, to be like, this is going to take a bit of time, but if I stick with it, maybe we'll grow something. But you got to kind of have it planned. You can't just wing it and go, okay, I got 2 or 3 episodes. Oh, I didn't like what that's doing. Okay, let's just switch it up. Oh, let's just switch it up. Because there's like an audience that's kind of like, you don't know it, but they're kind of sticking with you. And like gradually over time, it becomes almost like a mountain that you're like, oh, like I didn't know you were with me from episode 1. It's like, dude, I've been here. I've seen you kind of go through your channels. And then there's other people like, I dipped out after episode 2, man. Like you changed a few things and I wasn't with it. And I'm like, I didn't even know you were sticking with me. I didn't know. It's a lot of brainstorming. Have you done that before you even started the YouTube channel, where you kind of like, we might like it, our kid likes it, but like, do you really deep dive into it and go like, how are we going to make all this work?
I think so. Just before we did it, it was actually about a year worth of on and off conversations, just lightly saying like, oh, we could maybe do it this way, or we could do it this way sometimes. And occasionally I'd pick up the guitar. Like we wrote our hand washing song and our tidy song long time before. My son was cleaning up, like he had the big blocks in our bedroom. And I just started singing like a tidy song with it, and I was like, "Wait, we could use this one day if we start this thing." And and then it wasn't until really that anniversary dinner where we said, "Let's try it." and our anniversary is in November, and we started shooting in December. So it took about a month afterwards to figure out the logistics. I've always been into like videography and photography and design, so I had like those skills ready to go. But it wasn't until we actually filmed, and we filmed our first 2 episodes in December, but we didn't put it out until February. There was a lot to learn in those few months after filming it, and we even our sink and floats video we did. We couldn't stand how it turned out, and we learned a lot after putting out our first video. So we went back and reshot the song for it to improve it. And it's been a long learning curve. Even today, I'm working on a script for another video, and I was just telling Jay, I was like, I think we need to rethink this whole approach on how we do our scripts. So it keeps evolving.
It's a learning process, and you're right. It is a production. And thing about us is we can't just put out something, but we have to be proud of it. And we're both perfectionists. Things take a while, and we'd love to put out a video a week, but we can't. We both work full-time jobs. This is our side gig, and we're also parents, and that's another full-time job. So this is our evening project, but we are really we're really focused on the fact that if we're putting it out there, it has to be good quality education for kids, but also good quality production, because we want to be proud of what we're putting on YouTube. And because I think that's what makes a really good video stand out, is one that actually looks good, because that's what's going to draw the kids in.
When you say you're perfectionists, I like to think that sometimes I can be a perfectionist when it comes to this stuff, like just to get like the recording and stuff. But I think it comes in time. Like I go back to some first episodes, and I'm not looking at that going like, like that's my greatest stuff right there. I'm looking.
We do the same.
I'm just there like, hold on a second. We've had like Max Kerman from the Arkells on, and this was pointed out to me when we were in university, and like one of our classmates coming, he's like, you sound like you're tired. You sound like you weren't interested at all. And like, I don't listen back to stuff because it's like I'm in the moment. I was there. But then when I listened back, I was like, wow, like I feel like I should send them like some roses or something, because you're like, so Max, how did the band get created? And then it's just like, are you high? Are you there? And I'm like, I'm here. And then I listen back, I'm like, okay, it's not like the tone had to change, but I was thinking to myself, well, now I sounds like I'm fake, because now I'm just going to come in like really like
over the top,
super energetic. And then I'm like, I don't want that. But then it's just how you present it. So I find now if you go from episode 1 to maybe like 100 to 200, you're like, okay, I can see the gradual change.
Right.
Do you do that with yours? Like if you go back from like 1 and be like, I can't believe I said that, or I can't believe I did that in that manner, and now you're kind of like, I got a rhythm. I'm getting there.
Definitely,
especially with production,
even in like the small things in the scripts. You put out the first few episodes, and you have like we filmed 2 at a time originally when we used to do this, and so you get feedback. We had to wait for like a few months to put out the next one with that change, because we had already filmed it.
Like something as simple as, we used to call adults in the episode. And then we realized, wait, kids don't really know what adults are. And a friend of ours gave us some feedback. Well, why don't you switch the term to grown-ups?
Yeah.
And so now going forward, when we talk about, making sure you have a grown-up present, if you're cooking with a hot oven, we use the term grown-up, right? So with these small little changes that we're making just based on feedback that we're getting from our viewers and from our friends and family, it really does make a big difference.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, like I kind of tend to look at, and it's still evolving. Like you say that grown-ups now, and like 3 years down the road, that could be changed to something different. Or like I always look at, there's a channel here, we have it in Newfoundland, but I think it comes out of Hamilton. It's like CHCH, and there's like shows on it, and then it starts with like, this show is a product of its time, and it gives you a big long dialogue, and I'm just like, wow. I was like, why is it a product of its time? Then you watch it, and you're like, oh, okay. It's like I can see, but I'm waiting for like when we turn like 70 and 80, and then there's like Boy Meets World on, and it's like, this show is a product of its time. I'm like,
yeah,
why is it a product of its time? And then it's like Sean Hunter in a dress, and it's like, okay, because he was acting like a girl. He wanted to figure out what girls were thinking. It's like, yeah, but like he shouldn't be doing that. Like he didn't identify, and I'm just still like, oh, okay, fine. But I'm just still like, my DVD set doesn't say it's a product of its time. Like,
yeah.
they're okay. I want to ask you just a little bit about your own kind of history, because I know, like, I came from, say, I want to get into journalism originally, into sports journalism, and then that just kind of weeded out to my dad being like, "Well, you like sports? Is there anything else you like?" I'm like, "I like radio, I like music," and he's like, "Why don't you do radio music?" I was like, "Okay," but then like the industry is different than what it was like when I grew up, right? Like, there's no much music. There's none of these things that I'm like, that would be good to go into. So to try to kind of stay, I guess, relevant in some aspect, it's like, let's do this because it combines everything I like. But tell me a little bit about like your background. Like, was this always kind of a goal for you to be involved in like kind of like children's entertainment, or was it kind of like, well, man, I wanted to be a teacher, but I wanted to be teaching high school students, like, about music, or I wanted to be doing something way different than this.
Yeah, I mean, go for it with your music.
I'm a music grad, and definitely in high school I had the dream of rock star for life. It's something I've always been involved in. Being in a high school band, and then being in a university band, and then a band after university. And I put out an album with a friend a few years ago, right before COVID.
Okay.
And we were planning on doing some shows and local shows, and that everything shut down, so that timing was not great. But my feeling in terms of music, it's a very hard industry to get into, and my thought was, I've always just wanted to have an impact on other people in a similar way that I've been impacted musically. I've had inspiration in my life. If I could do that for other people and spread like the joy of music, that's something I'd love to like leave behind one day. And when we started playing music for my son, and I realized that engagement and that feeling that I had, that I'd wanted to have, he was now getting just from the small things we were doing around the house. It kind of fueled the passion to start writing songs for kids. I never thought, like, when I was like I said, when I wanted to be this rock star for life, that I was going to be doing kids music one day. But once I saw that reaction from him, it made me feel that way, and it just kept me going and writing more songs about it. Yeah, I think I kind of just pulled Jade along for the ride by in more of like a convincing way. Like, hey, I think we could do this. This could be fun project for the two of us. I don't think you ever had the idea of doing a show like this. I know you've always wanted to teach, and you've been a teacher, but doing something like from like on an entertainment side of things.
You couldn't even pay me to sing karaoke before this. So the fact that there are videos of me singing online is shocking. Like, I remember putting out our first video and getting texts from friends being like, "Wait, you sing?" Because this is not something I normally do. But I think you've given me the confidence, and I'm learning as I go. But for me, the teaching is the passion. I have always loved teaching. I mean, when I was little, I was teaching little kids who were younger than me, and then tutoring, and then became a swim instructor, and then a teacher down the road. And so teaching is a passion. I taught middle school, so I wasn't originally teaching this younger audience. But what I've realized, like with our son, is that like all it takes is a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, and passion for what you're teaching. And it goes such a long way. And what's incredible with kids is that they pick up so much through music. So as simple as learning the days of the week, or the continents, or whatever it is. When our son comes home from his school program and he's singing these songs, we realize, wow, this really can work. And so I think that's where we've kind of blended our two passions. Like, I know how to get to the kids, but Daniel is so good at putting together the music. And so it's like our two passions together have really fueled this whole project.
Yeah. And I would just add one other thing. I think to give some confidence to Jade, unfortunately, when my grandfather passed away a few years before we started this, we found a poem that he had written my grandmother 70 years ago, before they were married. And I turned that poem into a song, and I asked Jade, I said, look, this is going to be private. I asked Jade, will you do a duet with me? Because it was really a duet type of poem. And she reluctantly agreed. And then, we actually recorded it. We put it out on like Apple Music and Spotify, and we sang it at my grandfather's unveiling. And that I think gave some confidence, like, hey, I can sing. There's we got some good feedback from friends and family who heard the song. And so I said, I'd love to do that again with you one day. We just need to figure out what that's going to be.
And I remember you
saying,
turned
into this.
I remember saying, I hope this isn't the last time we record something
Yeah.
together. And here we are, we've put out an album together with children's music. And so it is crazy how we've progressed.
Yeah.
But it has been a really fun project. And as Daniel said, it is a bonding experience for the two of us as a couple. It's something that we, work on in the evenings after our full days of our other job. And we put our son to bed, and then this is our project. You were talking about the brainstorming. Like sometimes we just sit on the floor with the guitar for hours putting together these songs and these ideas for the videos. So it's nice to have this time together, this creative outlet.
Yep.
Who came up with the name, right? Because like you look at and I'm sure I've asked this with like Sunshine and Broccoli and Splash and Boots, and I'm sure they have like solid answers. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's just like it has to be something creative. It has to be something that kids remember. Because when you watch shows today, it's like Bluey, right? Like people know Bluey. It's like the same as like when we were smaller, it was like Caillou or Little Bear. It's like I feel like a lot of the things to kind of like, I know it's changing because we would turn on TV. Now they just go to YouTube and find things, but which is great for like people like us. But I always thought, like, give me a catchy song, give me characters I can kind of relate to, or like at least feel like, geez, like, yeah, I'm rooting for this person, right? Like Franklin had a catchy song, and I'm like 30 odd years old, and if someone has Franklin in the background, I'm just like, I am 30. I shouldn't watch Franklin, but I'm just like, I will sing the Franklin song. There's days that, like, I'm sure when I was in university or even now coaching soccer, if I hear just a little bit of what is it called, like a soundbite of a song that you remember from your childhood, next minute it's just like, hey, it's Franklin. And then someone's like, what are you doing?
It's
I'm just
nostalgic.
like, I don't know, but it hit me. So like, how do you, I know it's still a process, but like, tell me how you came up with the name. And were there certain things like that you thought of while you were doing all this? Like, okay, we need to get like bright colors. We need like catchy symbols, catchy songs. Like we needed to get them like hooked episode 1.
Oh yeah. The name, we went back and forth a couple times, and we wanted something that was unique. And we wanted something that we could spell out in a song, which is why we spell out in our theme song. Also because a lot of people may not know how to spell Bisous. So Bisous in French, I'm a French teacher, and Bisous means kiss. And it's a really special word in our home. We've always, even before our son was around, it's something we would say to each other before bed, Bisous, quick kiss, And with our son, it's a word that we introduced to him too. And so it's a really, I guess it's a really special word in our home. And
also chef's kiss.
Right. And so it was like a play on words, right? The chef's kiss. So Chef Bisous, that's how that came to be. And Daniel's character name is Sous Chef Encore. And again, we wanted a French word, but then it ties into the music as well, right? An encore. So together, that's how that came to be. In terms of the colors, I don't know if you want to speak to that. That was kind of where
the colors were like just more so like, let's go with primary colors.
Yeah.
And how do we incorporate that into our outfits, and thinking about like, typical chef's hat is white. Maybe we should go with red, Bisous kiss. So like lips cut like pink, red was kind of like a thinking there. And, maybe we can put a brand around that. And then we had we needed a way to add a supplementary, like entertainment, but also something that we could cut to in the footage. And so since we had the microwave there, I thought, why don't we just put like a cutout of a cardboard, a green on it, and use it as a green screen. I don't have we don't have the time to actually animate the character speaking. So I just animated cutting away to different things. But, the idea was to create this character called Magic Micro who could, supplement the lessons with stuff on the screen.
Yeah, like a display, right? So if I'm speaking, we cut to Magic Micro, the microwave behind me, and then this way, the kids are able to visualize what I'm saying. So kind of like a chalkboard in a classroom, right? So that's how Magic Micro came to be. So we are essentially the 3 characters of the show. The idea behind having a chef, I had never seen a kids show where like a cooking show mixed with an educational component. And so I love the idea of having this unique character, this chef who's educating kids. And then this sous chef who also happens to be a musician who brings out the guitar. And, it's kind of this unique combination. But yes, Magic Micro plays a large role too.
Yeah. And I don't really, as a sous chef, I don't really help with the cooking. I help with the cleaning as a sous chef would.
Yeah.
I help with
sometimes the prep.
With the prep.
Yeah.
If we need to do some sort of magical edit, she mimight say, "Oh, sous chef Encore, can you help?" And then some transition will happen, and then there we go. But yeah.
Yeah, and we're hoping, a lot our music, yes, it'd be amazing to create a Franklin type song where kids hear it down the road and go, "Oh, how nostalgic."
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm hoping that one day somebody somewhere is teaching their kid like through our song, like, "Oh, this is the color song I learned, the Roy G. Biv song, or about the dinosaurs."
Right. Or this is how I learned the planets.
That would be a really cool feeling.
Yeah, definitely.
I like the idea though, where it's like the Magic Micro. There's probably adults out there that are just like, I see where you're going with that one. It's
yeah,
like,
we get
that reaction, and that was part of it. Actually,
like, it'd be like in the future, it's like you get Channing Tatum to be on. They'd be like, I knew it from episode 1. That's what they were going for. Is just to like, yeah,
Magic Micro comes to life.
Well, there is the irony of it is like, as you go back and sometimes watch like these kids episodes or kids programs, it's like you're looking at it from the standpoint, like you're right, like the main focus, I'm sure at the time for them as well, for a visual aspect, is like bright colors, something kids remember. But like I've gone back and watched Teen Titans Go, and there's like some stuff I'm like, I don't really think you get that reference.
Oh, 100%.
I get it. And then there's like, because I think there's literally a whole episode of them talking about how you become an animator. And then like they go in and pitch ideas and like, yeah, so it's like the fall of the season. You pitch a few ideas, and then some guy like throws 4 out, and then sometimes they're lucky to stick. And I'm like, are you following this? And they're like, no, I'm just listening to Robin. And I'm just like, I'm following it because I'm entertained by like the whole process. Or they had like an episode that I think they used like a Fall Out Boy song, and they were kind of like mimicking Fall Out Boy, and I'm like you guys don't understand that at all, do they? They're like, no, it's just a band, Brian. Leave us alone. And I'm just still like, no, this is good. I love Fall Out Boy. This is great. And then it's just they're like, do you know who Fall Out Boy is? They're like, no. I'm like, we're like 2 different spectrums. There's an audience that's watching it for like the entertainment, then there's an audience that's like, see what you did there. See that reference.
For sure. It's like when we watch Toy Story with our son, we catch things and we go, oh, I did not realize they had said that in the movie when we were kids. But these things are designed to, be for both. Like Daniel and I love watching Bluey. It's like such a great show. And we love that adults can also enjoy it. And that's something that we try to do in our show. We want to have something where kids can sit and watch it, but adults can learn too. And we've had a lot of adults come to us and say like, wow, I didn't realize that this type of food would sink or float, or I learned a lot about the planets there. So kind of fun to have that bonus of parents learning as well.
We try to throw a dad joke in each episode.
Yeah, we have some puns. Yes.
You got it to just like, because you don't know who's the audience that for like a segment could just stay with you for that segment. Like, I'm sure, I guess you kind of got to give it credit for like, you guys and like other kids entertainment, children entertainment, like that's great that there's an avenue that you're like, well, listen, we got the kids, but we want the adults to kind of sit with us because they're the ones controlling the remote. Like I know people are like, well, in our house, the kid puts on stuff. It's like, listen, you can take that remote from that kid at any point. If you want to watch football, you're putting on football. But it's like, I'm sure for Sharon, Lois, and Bram, my brothers were not happy that was on repeat the whole day. And they're like, dude, all they're doing is singing the same song over and over. And I'm just like, I'm addicted. I'm a kid. Yeah. That's fine. But like, I'm sure if they, again, it's evolving, but if they were in today's landscape, they might look and be like, you know what? Like we got the kids, but how are we keeping the adults to stay tuned?
Yeah.
Right. I can sit down and watch most of the stuff that like my niece and nephew watches because it's like, okay, this is catchy. It's good. Sometimes I feel like, when you look at the world today of music and you get like Ed Sheeran getting told, hey, TLC owns that song. It's like, how many chords can one man play before he gets sued? And then there's other times there's like, hold on a second. That song I remember as Head, Shoulders, Knees, and Toes. And then someone rewrites it to like something completely different about, washing a car or like getting up in the morning, I'm just like, is there papers coming your way? Like, what's going on? Like, how are you getting away with this? But poor Ed Sheeran over there can't have one tune to get sued for. But it's yeah, because I like you said, there's going to be kids that grow up in like 10, 20 years from now, and then they'll be like, this is how I learned how to tie my shoe. And I'd
Yeah.
be like, I learned a rabbit through a hole. And they'd be like, oh, well, I learned a fish goes around the sea. And then, somehow he doesn't get caught. And then he comes back and meets his friend. I'm just like, I don't get it. But if it helps you tie your shoe, fine.
Whatever works.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I want to ask you kind of like a little bit of the fun aspect here of this is from the YouTube side of things, like to be creators, like do you ever find, like I know you've kind of mentioned it, like as perfectionists, like we go back and look at things and it might not be exactly what you want, or like you're like, we could probably edit this, but do you sometimes think and go, oh man, like there's no more, like we got to just put it out there and let people see what it is? Because you can sit and edit something for like 5 hours and you're going to always find something. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure there's stuff that I've got on this channel that some like, I really like this interview, but you didn't mention this. And I'm like, okay, I was in the moment. Like, what do you want me to do? And then there's other times that's like, I really like that you went into this. So you kind of take good and bad comments, but is there sometimes that you're like in an editing room and you're just kind of like, I feel like we should take that out, but you're kind of like, I don't have the energy. I'm just going to keep it in and see what happens.
Yeah, that happens all the time. Actually, it happened yesterday or 2 days ago when I was like, we just put out a video today, and there was like I'm always balancing the levels, like the audio levels, and
Okay, yeah.
I just had I don't know if I was looking at the screen for too long, but I kept feeling like the voice was out of, like the video and the audio were like one frame out of sync.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
couldn't
yeah, I
figure out
got
if
you,
it was forward or back, and I was doing it 100 times. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna put it the way it was. It was fine. Let's just deal. Or like I have issues with green screen problems like a lot, and I definitely know my limits. I'm still trying to learn all the time and teaching myself new things about how to edit them better. But definitely, like we try to have a schedule. I know, for example, we got to put out like our newsletter and we got to put out our activity sheets. And if I keep going on this, there's no chance I'm doing those things also, and they need to be ready in time. So sometimes I just say, all right, it is what it is. And you watch like Miss Rachel and like their older episodes are like just like handheld with the camera, like you said, and kids love it. As long as it's if it's entertaining, they tend to gravitate to it. And kids are definitely not noticing those imperfections. I notice them because I'm working on them. And I know that I have friends who are also in a similar industry to me. They might point it out to me, to say, hey, you can improve a little bit here.
We're definitely our worst critics, though.
For sure. And we need to be, but we definitely have those points where like, okay, it is what it is. And we're going to put this out because we need to move on to the next thing and balance those priorities. And just hopefully over time, we get gradually better and better and better and faster at what we do.
But as you're saying, like, it's not just about our YouTube video. I mean, our YouTube channel is our main focus, but we're putting out music on Spotify, Apple Music. We are creating activity sheets for every single episode, both in English and French, so that parents, teachers can access those and follow up with the material from the videos. We're posting the recipes from our actual videos on our website. So there's so much more than just the YouTube video. So we do sometimes have to cut ourselves off and say, okay, it's time to work on the next thing, or we're going to have to put out a video every 6 months. And that's not the plan. So it's a lot of work, but we're having fun while we do it. And so we always said, if we reach a point where we're not having fun anymore, then it's not worth it. Right. And like, this has to continue to be fun. Otherwise, like, let's move on. Right. And so at this point, we are still having a blast. And that's definitely the most important thing.
So I want to ask you, because everyone kind of has their, I guess, selling point or niche, right? Like it sounds more like a pitch now meeting, but it's like, okay, tell us, like, how are you different than this person? But it's like, you mentioned about the activity sheets, like recipes is great because, like I said, it ties into what you're doing. So if like someone's like, I really like what they did, where can I find that? Like, I know growing up, they had PBS Kids for us here in Newfoundland, which I thought was hilarious because this is a Detroit Red Wings room. So it's like PBS, I think it's like in Detroit. But I used to watch Zoom. So like you'd watch the kids from Zoom like make recipes or like have like your kid of the week, and I'm just like, man, I so badly want to be kid of the week. It's like, but you're not even in the States. I'm like, but can I? Can I please? But then it's like, whatever, Brian, get over yourself. It's like there's a recipe, but then they would have them up on like a website or something that, or like if there was an activity in say their area, they're like, oh well, you know, Jeffrey over here is playing soccer. Check out to see if you have a soccer thing in your neighborhood. I'm like, I will. You just pushed me to try that. So I like that aspect because now you're trying to get like, it's not just they're watching you, you're engaging them to go to a website to probably check out our things. But how did the activity sheet kind of come about? Because I think that's kind of really interesting because listen, if you go to a fast food restaurant with a kid, what are they looking for? They want something to color. They want something to keep them stimulated. So I feel like that's a good idea because you might have I guess an older sister or daughter or whatever that's like, well, mom, I want to do the recipe part. And then there's another one's like, I don't want to be in the kitchen. Like, just give me the activity sheet. Like, just something.
Yeah. In teaching, we have this philosophy that you always explain what you're going to teach, you teach it, and then you practice it because kids have to do things several times for it to stick. So sure, we're talking about planets, right? And we're talking about sinking and floating. And in our most recent video, we're talking about how to sort waste into recycling, garbage, compost. Great. You hear it. Now practice it. So these worksheets, they're all based around the episode, the concept, and they're for sorting the waste. There are images of all the different items, and they have to put a line from the item to the right bin. So they get to actually practice the concept. Planets, it'll say like number them in order from the closest to the sun to the furthest of the sun. And so it's just giving kids the opportunity to actually apply what they've learned in our videos.
Yeah.
And I'm going to add to that.
Yeah, I was just going to say that sometimes people also learn through actually engaging more so than just watching. So we wanted to give that as an option too. Like we know that screen time is not for everybody. And so, if we want to teach just the concepts through activity sheets, that's another thing we have. And like you said, we do hope that parents like print and download them and take them to restaurants, if they need to keep their kid occupied or if they're looking just for an activity for like, on Sunday afternoon, this is something that they can do.
And it's all free. It's all on our website for free. Like we wanted to make sure this was accessible to anyone. And that included, being Canadian. It's really important that we offer all these resources in French. So every worksheet is available in both languages. We also put out our first French song just the end of last year. And so giving kids an opportunity to also learn, it was all about boats. So the different type of boats, so that they have that opportunity to learn it in French, which might be valuable to either Francophone speakers or even French learners. So trying to kind of make this accessible to anyone was a really important goal of ours as well.
A little bit of the fun aspect. We do finish this off with kind of a game of random questions.
Okay, let's do it.
So I guess the kind of the first random question we got here, I'm waiting for this to generate. This one's not bad considering the occasion, but what is your ideal date?
Oh, I like that. Well, honestly, something we love to do is just ask each other deep questions. Like we will plop on the couch with some snacks and just talk. Daniel and I have been friends for a very long time. We met almost 20 years ago and didn't even date for a good chunk of that. And we were genuinely just friends. So some of our favorite things to do are just sit and chat and bond and talk. But we also love Lego. We love puzzles. We have
Legos here that we make together on date nights.
That's not a real NES back there. That's a Lego NES. Yeah, this is
okay.
Lego piano, Lego McLaren.
So we love Lego. We love watching shows. I don't know. We just like hanging out. I think that's our ideal day night, is just hanging.
The questions are definitely something we do a lot. I mean, we both buy lots of question games for each other with different themes.
Yeah. Just ways to connect. Yeah, we're communicators.
Okay. That's fair. Like I know there's a lot of card games out there. Like sometimes when you look at the cards, you're like, man, that would be a good question to ask someone. But then sometimes I'm like, but is sometimes is that a little bit too deep? Is that like a good first question to ask someone? Like, because on Instagram,
times.
Like on Instagram they'll have like, here's something that like next time you want to see, like have a real deep conversation with someone. Like I don't know if I want to have a real deep conversation with someone on the first interaction. Maybe a little bit like feel out the process. Like it's like if I'm going into a pool, I'm not going right into the deep end. I'm just putting my
you got to work your way in.
Yeah, it's like almost like, hey, how many kids do you want to have? They're like. like, this is a McDonald's, sir. Like,
Yeah.
just give me your order number and leave. And I'm like, fair enough. Uh, the next random question they have here. Okay, this one's not bad. Who inspired you growing up?
Hmm. Oh, that's a good one. Go for it.
Well, I mean,
For you.
musically, David Gilmour,
Okay.
George Harrison, really any of the Beatles. Yeah, I mean, most of my inspirations growing up were music related. Also, my grandfather definitely was a big influence on my life.
Yeah, I would say family for me. My mom is I think I base a lot of my own attributes as a mother to what she did for me. And so for me, she's a big inspiration and just in terms of just being a mom. And in terms of being a teacher, I mean, I had so many amazing teachers growing up that really showed me that if you are passionate about what you teach, you will get to the kids. And so as a teacher, that is something that I've taken on. And if you show the kids that you are enjoying what you're teaching, then it just goes such a long way. And couldn't have gotten that without some of the teachers in my life.
Now, do you find like I guess a little bit of a side question on this one, but it's like with today's society, like the way you gotta kind of teach kids has changed. Like I know when I was smaller, this is like one of my favorite stories to say. It's not even impacting me, but when we were in like grade one, some girl was like crying that she fell off her bike, and the teacher came over to her and like kind of grabbed at her shoulders, and she was like, "Why are you crying? Like that is not the worst thing that's going to happen in your life. Like if you cry over this." When you get older, you're gonna have no tears left, and that just stays with me in the mind. So, like, as a 6-year-old, like, I imagine just like tipping over, like like when they show cartoons and the person just tips over on the bike. I'm
Yeah.
just imagining like her tipping over and then no, like no tears falling out. Like I don't know your emotion. Like, are you sad? What happened? Like I don't see the tears, and I'm just like, can that actually happen? Because no one explains to you as a child, like you're sad. There's tears. That makes sense. But like I was like, wait, do we have a limited amount of tears? Like, if I cry now, does that mean I have less tears later in life? And then, as I got older, I was like, it just sticks with you. So,
Oh, for
but
sure.
you would not, I don't think you do that today. It's like if
No.
I'm at a soccer game or something and someone's crying, I'm like, listen, there is more things in the world today. And be sad about someone be like, he's sad because he missed. And I'd be like,
Yeah,
oh,
that teacher would probably not have a job anymore in today's world. I think now it's actually the total opposite. It's actually about being okay to express those emotions, and it's something that we talk to our son about all the time. It's okay to be sad. But maybe the best way to approach that is to express it. I'm feeling sad because, and that's something we've worked on with him since he was little. And to this day, I mean, he'll come up and be like, I'm feeling frustrated because, and he expresses it, right? So I think as a teacher, as a parent, that's something that we can all embrace, is this idea that it's okay to feel feelings, but talk it out, because that's the best way to kind of get through it.
on your show, is there a certain guest or star or something that you'd really wish to do, like kind of in the future? Like it can be a guest appearance. It could be like, oh, I wish we were in like this studio. I wish we could do a performance here. Like, what's like the biggest goal you have for you?
All right. I'll take this one first because you probably have more of a
Yes.
musical influence.
Yeah, yeah,
For
yeah.
me, I would love to be on Sesame Street. And or
Okay.
for them to be with us. Like to me, that was my show growing up. And what's incredible is, 30 plus years later, that's my son's favorite too. And so the idea of being able to have them on the show or be on their show, that is like the ultimate goal as a child entertainer, right? Or children's entertainment. To me, that is chef's kiss. But I don't know. What about you, music wise? What are you
No,
thinking?
Sesame Street's definitely up there. I think not even music wise. I mean, we've talked about. We'd love to actually go to restaurants and
Oh yeah.
do
Okay.
some shows there with celebrity chefs, or just famous chefs, or even just chefs. We'd love to also expose to like local restaurants. Like we'd love to do that one day. We just need to have more bandwidth to do that kind of thing, or just expand into it. That's something that would be cool. And then also to have like more guest people on. Like I'd love to do something with um you know doing something with Raffi, Sharon, the remaining members of Sharon, Lois, and Bram. Like I grew up with that too. And yeah, Sesame Street doing a collab with Elmo one day would be so cool. Even, and same thing with like doing something with Miss Rachel or Blippi, like the big Moose Clumps is a big one for us, like really big musical influence. I'd love to do some sort of collab with them. We just did one with Sunshine and Broccoli, which was a lot of fun. So more collabs, the better. I think that they definitely bring out a lot of creativity across the board when we do those.
I want to ask you though, like with Sunshine and Broccoli, because I've seen in the bio, like you have worked with them. I think it's kind of interesting because in the landscape now, like I'm kind of a wrestling fan. So like when you see wrestlers like that we grew up with, like, so for example, like Trish Stratus and whatnot, and like she only had like maybe 4 or 5 wrestlers to go against on like every night. And then now it's like a whole women's division. And that's kind of, I feel like with children's entertainment, like you had Sharon, Lois, and Bram, and it's almost like that's kind of it, right? Like now I'm not saying like there could be other people like, hey, hold on, now you had like Mr. Dress Up, whatnot, Mr. Rock. I'm like, that's cool. But for me, it was just Sharon, Lois, Bram. And I'm like, I don't see them like teaming up with a lot of people, maybe because there's not a lot there. But now today, like I said, tomorrow there could be another YouTube channel if someone's just like, I'm gonna show you how to work on a car with this person, but we're gonna sing songs about cars. And I'm just like, okay, cool. But like it seems like it's a whole genre or entertainment. Like there's literally, I think, a Juno Award for this kind of field. And like I remember as a kid, again, I'm not focused on Junos as a kid, but I didn't know there was like this whole section. And now you can literally collaborate. Like if you just reach out through an email or through a text, if you know someone, you're like, hey, you do the same stuff I do. Would you be interested in like maybe meeting up, maybe chatting, seeing? So like, how does that all come together for you guys? Like, did they reach out to you, or did you kind of like see them on like a station and be like, yo, like maybe we should kind of reach out and be like, hey, how did you guys get started? What's on the go here?
Yeah, I think with Sunshine and Broccoli, it was just through social media, just liking each other's stuff, realizing that we're both in Toronto, that we, like you said, are working on children's entertainment. They've been around a long time. We are new to the scene. And so it's kind of nice to have them as mentors too. And
turns out they like our folks both have like cottages up north, and
they're like doors apart.
We were down the street from each other. Like I always walked by Lisa's cottage growing up in the summer, and like didn't know that that's who was there. I just knew that that's their cottage. That's the Sunshine Cottage. And
it was just a small world.
And then when we started connecting, we're like, wait a second, are you? And it's like, yeah. And so we see them in the summer too, when we go up to visit the parents. Which is pretty funny. But yeah, it's really just reaching out.
I think it's just realizing that, yes, we are all working on in the same genre, but we're all very different, right? And so away, we started talking to them and we're like, wait, your name's Broccoli. I'm a chef. So come on the show. Let's make a broccoli dish.
Yeah.
Like it was just so much fun to be able to use like their expertise, our expertise, kind of tie it together. And in the end, I mean, I love the song that we put together, the 4 of us, and it's just such a fun song, and it kind of combines, like I said, our different talents. So I think collabing, yes, you could look at it as like, sure, you are technically competition, but in the end, we're all working towards the same goal. We're just trying to entertain kids. So if we can do that together and make it even better by working together, then that's the best. And then you get friends out of it later down the road, right?
Look, for the last random question I have here, this one, I like this one. Was there a side hustle that you kind of were like, you really thought that this would be your goal in life, but then it was just like something just kind of derailed it? Like for me, to give you an example, like I like podcasting, but I also like music. So I used to like sing in the shower. I used to record myself singing. And then I realized like, I'm not the singer guy. Like I'm not. I came up with bands when I was younger. Like I had one that was called Blue Death, called that Bleth. Then I had one that was called Sophomore Year because I was like really into All Time Low. And I was like, it sounds like a great name, Sophomore Year. No one can make fun of us because like once you get older, they're not Backstreet Boys anymore, right? It's not Boys to Men. So it's like nobody can take that, Sophomore Year. But then I was like, but you won't be a sophomore anymore in a few more years. I'm like, that's my biggest thing. It's not that like I can't sing, it's that the band name's just gonna be ruined. But have you ever had like a side dream that you're like, I would have really liked to do that, but this got in the way?
Funny enough, I was a child actress, and Daniel was in all sorts of bands growing up. So I think we've actually combined those two things, and that's kind of, it's funny enough how we turned out to, be acting and singing on YouTube. So I don't think we ever expected it to go in that path, but
Definitely not. I mean, I certainly thought like rock star gonna happen. I also worked on like a dating app once, and I thought that was gonna be the thing. Like, it was a really cool idea. And then all of a sudden Tinder comes along and was basically what we were gonna do, but way better. And so we just kind of went, all right, moving on, next thing, back to the drawing board. But yeah, I really think that, when you're working on something that's like a side hustle, there's that excitement and that feeling at first, and sometimes, it can taper off at some point. And I think on our side hustles, I mean, I at least felt like that tapering off, but this one was different. This one, as we were doing it, we're like, oh, there's something here. There's that momentum, there's that feeling. And we've kind of, stuck with it, and it's blossomed into this huge thing, right? We have our YouTube channel, and we have our website, we have our music, we have tons of different aspects of it. And we really feel like this is going to be the thing, the side hustle of side hustles for us that turns into our main hustle.
I was going to say the side hustle that turns into the main hustle for sure. Yeah.
I mean,
so
good. It worked out for you. I mean, I had like, when I was like 16, like the Pixo sites were all the rage, and like MySpace and stuff. I was just like, man, I'm going to make the website. Like I basically had everything accomplished, but the actual thing you needed, like it's almost like, to reference it is like, I've got the band name All Time Low. I've got some songs that I like, but like, of course, I'm not musically inclined. So it's like, I probably got the chorus and stuff written. I got a website made. I've got an idea what the band is. And it's like, great. So when are you going to open up? And I'm just like, we need members. We need people that can play. Oh, okay. Maybe I should have started with that and then work my way
Right.
to the simpler stuff, right? Like I did the simpler stuff first and then the more complex stuff. It's almost like doing this podcast and being like, all right, I got the name. We're going to premiere at this date. I got a time slot, and then they're like, okay, who's your first guest? Oh, I didn't think about that. We need
Forgot about
guests.
that one.
Whoops.
Yeah. But thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything, like, I know for an audience maybe that doesn't know you, because this could be like their first time watching this, is there a place that they can find, say, your previous content, or I was going to call them worksheets, but the activity sheets, recipes? Like, give us a little bit more insight, because some people could be like, man, I want to listen to Tobin, but I know at the end he likes to talk about other things where we can find them. So let's zoom right past. Oh, there we go.
There we go. So you can find all of our stuff on YouTube, Chef Bisous. That's Bisous. We also have a website, chefbisous.com. It has activity sheets, both in English and French, recipes, and also links to all of our videos.
And it also links out to our music, which you can find. You can just search for Chef Bisous on Apple Music, Spotify, Tidal. We're basically Amazon Music, anywhere, YouTube Music, anywhere you want to stream where you stream your music, you can find us there as well.
Absolutely. You can follow us on Instagram as well at Chef Bisous. We share stuff about our episodes, but we also have tips and tricks for parents when it comes to getting kids to try new foods, to learn new concepts. So lots of fun information on there as well.
Perfect. Is there a way that you can get me to try food? Because like I'm really picky.
You know what? You should check out our song with Sunshine and Broccoli.
The whole point is about mixing foods you like with other foods that you may not like, to try something new, right? Like I didn't like broccoli in the episode, and so we mixed in broccoli with different things.
Wow, I feel like we should take the people that don't like pineapple on pizza and like just kind of give them that song.
Totally, right? It's mix it up,
and they're like, that doesn't change my perspective. I still don't like pineapple on pizza. I'm just like, yeah, but just put one pineapple on the pizza. And put two, and like, this seems really picky, Brian. I'm just like, I want you to like pineapple on pizza. I'm sick of ordering half and half.
On this episode, we talk about pineapple and pizza.
Yeah, that might have to be one. We'll add it to the brainstorming list.
Yes. And you know what? Maybe there's someone out there as a YouTube creator named like Pineapple or something that you can.
Exactly.
Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Tobin Tonight. Our thanks to our guests for coming on to the show. Remember, you can find past, present, and future episodes on TobinTonight.com. Follow and like us on our socials, and don't forget to subscribe. This is Tobin saying thank you, Jacob, and good night.